Today, we're going to talk about 3 ways to build and clarify your personal code of ethics based on the book Being Good, A Short Introduction to Ethics by Simon Blackburn. My name is Jesse, and this year, along with my small book club, I am reading 24 books, 12 novels, and 12 expository nonfiction type books dedicated to improving my understanding of what makes for a good life. And if you want to learn more about the book club or join us, check out the links in the description below. And the first expository book was this one, Being Good. And these 3 takeaways are already helping me think differently about what makes for a good life. So I'm excited to share them with you. The first is this idea of our circle of moral consideration. Blackburn highlights that one way we participate in ethics is by taking up the concerns or reasons of others. We may not be able to fully experience or understand the feelings and state of being of others who are in a dire situation. But when they or others share the reasons for why they are suffering, we can take up those reasons as our own and then contribute to their liberation from that suffering. Having visuals helps me understand things, so here's how I've been thinking about it. At the center of our moral consideration is ourselves and our closest personal connections, like our primary caregivers and siblings, for example, especially when we're young. As we get older and mature, we start to expand that circle. Friends, maybe other adults in our lives, we start to care about the things they care about, including them as people. And that circle of moral consideration expands further. We start to care about our community, for example, and take actions out of that place of care and consideration. Even little things like picking up garbage somewhere because we want our community to be clean and pleasant for everyone. But we also start to learn about people who are experiencing challenges, and we listen. We learn with an open mind, and we hear the reasons they're experiencing those challenges, and we take up those reasons and feel an ever so small part of the pain that they're feeling, and they get added to our moral considerations. We act because we want to. We have taken up their reasons as our own in a way that hopefully facilitates some relief of their negative situation. It's what Blackburn talks about as the common point of view. We reach a common point of view with others, and if their reasons resonate with us, we can take them up as our own and strive together towards a better future. It requires us to listen, ask questions, understand, and possibly adopt their reasons. It highlights just how important education and listening to people's experiences with an open mind is in living an ethical life. So that's the first thing to think about. What does your moral consideration look like? Is it just you? Probably not. But if it is, that might mean we're missing out on community and shared reasons for connection and action. And this doesn't have to be just on concerns and challenges or resolving something bad. It can be shared passions and interests as well, taking up the reasons someone loves to play board games. You end up yourself adopting those reasons, and now you also love board games and can participate in that passion or desire together. Spending some time figuring this out will help us understand our current ethical priorities and where we might need to spend some time learning more. Which brings us to our next point, building off number 1, and really a prerequisite for our circle of moral consideration is the importance of having an open mind. This can be tough. Conversations on ethical topics and what makes for a good life can be quite passionate. I don't know what YouTube flags as bad words, so I'm just going to put them on the screen. I think the D word might be a problem. But in the book, Blackburn talks about challenging topics like, as well as 7 threats to ethics itself, which we did a video on and is linked below. The point being that all of these topics are tricky. They get into the idea of someone's rights, and when they're reduced to a simple axiom or phrase that's supposed to just be accepted as true, it does a disservice in understanding. As Blackburn puts it in the book, quote, "One-word rights give no answer to the difficult questions. The language is apt to be adversarial. It pits me against them, encouraging a sense of my right against others, my sense of just grievance when things don't go my way. It is not the language of genuine community." When reading this section of the book, the one that challenged me the most was abortion. It's one of those things that I felt like it wasn't my place to have an opinion on or to say there is a right or wrong answer to the questions related to it. But that often meant I just ignored it and was uninformed about it in general. Instead of opening my mind to the difficult questions, I closed my mind to the topic altogether. This book does a good job at reminding us hey, it's okay if you don't fully understand an ethical problem or the common narrative around it doesn't necessarily make sense to you. It's okay to ask questions, to learn about it, and to even change your mind about it more than once, or to even land at a place of, it depends, and realize there's no one right answer. If abortion is one of those topics for you as well, that just makes you tense when hearing it, like it did and honestly still kind of does for me, Blackburn talks a bit about Judith Thomson's work on this, and I found it really helpful. So I've linked to her pretty famous paper on this topic down below. So anyways, the first thing was this idea of our circle of moral consideration. Next is to keep an open mind, be okay with sitting in the difficult questions and prioritizing understanding compared to just whatever the common thought terminating cliche of the time might be. Which brings us to the last thing. And this one's going to be a little bit of a stretch, but it's something that I think Blackburn is nodding to in the last paragraph of the book. And I think it's a requirement for these first two ideas to actually have a positive impact in our lives. Here's the last paragraph of the book, and then we'll talk about it. Quote, "But if we reflect on an increased sensitivity to the environment, to sexual difference, to gender, to people different from ourselves in a whole variety of ways, we can see small, hard-won, fragile, but undeniable causes of pride. If we are careful and mature and imaginative and fair and nice and lucky, the moral mirror in which we gaze at ourselves may not show us saints, but it need not show us monsters either." When I read this, it reminded me of one of my favorite philosophers, Simone Weil. She has this idea that the highest human form of action is attention, and that to accomplish that, we need to be, quote, a vessel for God. And what she meant by this was not to be filled with the Holy Spirit or anything like that. What she meant was to be truly attentive, we need to empty oneself of ego, selfish desires, and preconceived notions, and that will allow us to truly perceive and respond to the needs of others and the world or reality, to transcend individual concerns and align and have a state of being within a higher level of good. What I think is being highlighted here, this last key thing we need to consider to understand and build our own ethics, is that to really look at our moral circle of consideration, to really understand others and have an open mind, we need to first deal with our own preconceived notions. We need to be vulnerable, examine our own thought processes and unreasonable perspectives, be a vessel for something greater, to become something greater. And look, this can start to sound a bit woo-woo and abstract, but it's not, and it doesn't have to be. Simone Weil was one of the most active philosophers, which is why she's one of my favorites. She wanted to understand the working class in the 1930s, so she voluntarily went and worked in the factories alongside them. This was unheard of for someone with prestigious university education like she had. But she didn't want to have some artificial understanding or base it on what she currently thought. She tried to empty her biases and went and actually spent time with the people in the situation to gain an understanding. And then from there, she wrote her book, Oppression and Liberty. She participated in labor unions, provided free education to factory workers and miners in her spare time. And get this, she voluntarily went and joined the anarchist militia in the Spanish Civil War to support the fight against the fascist forces that were taking control. And sadly, this caused her to lose her life at the young age of 34. This woman was amazing. She was not some philosopher sitting in a comfy chair somewhere just thinking about things. She thought that to take meaningful action, we need to clear out those biases and be truly receptive to the greater good. And I think that's what Blackburn is getting at here. To accomplish taking up others' reasons as our own, to keep an open mind and be okay to sit with difficult questions, we need to first and foremost try to transcend or at least recognize our personal biases and preconceived notions that hinder us from a vulnerable and authentic pursuit of a good, ethical, meaningful, and enjoyable life. Overall, I found this book to be a really great introductory book, accessible, easy to read, and covers the main points related to ethics. It definitely is an introductory book in the sense of it leaves you with more questions than answers, but I think that's kind of the point, to inspire further investigation. I give it a solid A tier rating, so much so that I don't even have it here because I lent it out. The next two books we'll be reading as part of the book club are Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle, paired with the novel The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. In the description below is a link to the full book list for 2025 if you're interested, including the links to the books on Amazon and to sign up for the book club. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out by commenting below or connecting with me on social media. Thanks for listening. Talk with you next time.